So for this video, I just wanted to be a bit more reflective today. I just wanted to really sort of share my experiences and my opinions and thoughts on what it really means to build a brand, right? Because right now, as it stands online, it's assumed that building a brand is just sort of posting content online with some good hooks, and all of a sudden you have a brand. And in fairness, we all have a brand. Every single one of us have a brand. The only difference is what are we doing to establish and to reinforce that brand? And then when we look at that, we also need to think of a brand as literally just being a reputation. What is your reputation like? And when you start to think of it like that, then you start to see a shift in how you start to produce said content, or how you're able to document the journey, as I talk about often, or even more so, what you need to do to look inwards within yourself to then understand what you can do to continue to improve on your brand. Because ultimately, the idea of branding as a whole is a self-development journey. That's all it is. Your brand is your journey of how you are able to navigate from where you were to where you are now to where you want to be. That is literally it. That is literally it as far as it means to build a brand. And that really allows you to start to think of it a lot more differently. It's not just about the content you post online to say that you was at this particular networking event, or you spoke with this particular person, or you wrote about this particular piece. It adds to that. It adds to the whole sort of image that you are putting yourself out there in terms of your perception, how you are perceived by individuals and your industry, right? When I talk about the idea of using your brand to position yourself as a key person of influence and the obvious choice, that is something that you need to somewhat establish within yourself, that you are the key person of influence in your life and beyond, and you are the obvious choice in your life and beyond. Because I did a video previously and I was speaking about how much it irritates me for people to somewhat speak bad on themselves. And with the whole idea, when we look at the idea of brand building and self-development, it all aligns, because as far as self-development goes, you're always looking to do better. You're always looking to improve. You're always looking to have an understanding of who you are. You're able to do an audit in your life, and you're able to see, okay, these are my strong points. These are the things that I'm passionate about. These are the things that I'm particularly confident in. However, these things are not something that I particularly like or enjoy at this moment in time, but I understand it's something that I need to improve on if I'm able to voice my opinion more, to be in a position where I have the confidence to be putting myself out there, despite what other people may think or whatever the case, right? And when you start to look at it as a self-development journey, everything sort of shifts into what you're doing, why you're doing it. And it's not just your expertise that's important, right? Of course, the expertise plays a massive part, but your mindset is important just as much as anything else. If you don't have that mindset locked in to say that this is something that you want to do and you can do it, then it's going to be a lot more harder for it to happen. It's going to be a lot more harder for you to break through to the point where you're doing these things. And it's all about like growth mindset, because in the grand scheme of things, for you to build a brand, and remember, we're all building our brands in just by being alive, right? We all have brands, but some people don't necessarily focus on building their brands. They just kind of navigate life as it stands, which is fine. Where some people are a bit more intentional. But it doesn't matter whether you're intentional about it or not. your brand is still being developed and refined based on what you're doing and based on how others perceive you. And then that's why I feel when you start to think of it from a growth mindset perspective and you realize that the journey that you're on is all about becoming better in the process, that is all you need to think about when it comes down to building a brand, and then everything else falls in line. And then let me actually see if I can get the authority flywheel up as well, because that will kind of say everything about what it means to build a brand effectively. Because when we think about the idea of generating revenue from your brand, right, we need to also bear in mind that for some people, it's still very much a foreign idea or a foreign ideology to know that you are generating like 5-6 figures a month just off the back of your brand and just off the back of what you've been able to build as an individual empire. And that's the phrase that they're using now, an individual empire, which aligns with the idea that you are building something solo, but you're building it within all various different forms, right? So you could argue for myself that I'm in the process of building a individual empire. The sort of content I'm putting out daily, this is a sort of media hub where I'm doing that. I have the work that I do day to day with clients as well, which is what I'm doing now. The way that I'm documenting and learning and documenting the journey over time is something that I'm able to showcase my skills. I'm able to showcase my expertise, and I'm able to let people into my world to understand that I have a lot to say. Like if I can speak literally every single day and upload videos on YouTube, then what is to say that I cannot do more speaking engagements across the world in the grand scheme of things? It all comes down to your thought process in terms of how you're thinking about these particular things when it comes down to brand building, right? Hold on, I think I found it actually. Let me share my screen real quick. Because even this alone, I think, is just something that will be easier to make the point known. Let me share my screen. And let me move my screen here. So with the authority flywheel, and if you are not familiar with the authority flywheel, this is one of the 3 layers within the brand authority system, the P.H.A.S.E.S brand authority system. It's my system that I developed to allow founder-led B2B experts to build that level of brand authority, right? And if you are not sure what brand authority is, let me go back here and you can see I call it brand authority based on the fact that it's your personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand. When you are able to build on those 3 particular brands, that allows you to get to a level of brand authority that allows you to attract your desired target audience that will turn into leads, that will ultimately turn into clients and ultimately drive revenue into for your business, right? This is a system that I spent a considerable amount of time putting together. And it's what I do this every single day. I apply the learnings that I do every day to the system and to myself as well to really document and showcase the process. But even before, matter of fact, with this whole system, even if we just start off there quickly, the whole system as its entirety is a sort of result of me knowing that I have to become better, right? Better as a PR practitioner, better as a marketer, better as a business person, right? Better as a solopreneur. All those things required me to be better, which meant I had to understand what it meant to be better, to build a brand for myself. Because remember, everyone is building a brand. It doesn't matter whether I'm coaching people and showcasing the importance of building a brand. I'm still building my brand in good time. The only difference is that I built a system that I incorporate with myself every single day that will allow me to get there in a way that is aligned with my end goal, right? Which is earning and generating a seven-figure business through my agency, and then also building a community of like-minded professionals and service operators looking to build that level of visibility and credibility as well, to build those revenue generating opportunities. So even if I go back to the authority flywheel, this alone, I want to share my screen. The authority flywheel alone, when I say focus on your core platform, right? Automatically, that is something that you have to then understand and learn that, okay, now I need to establish what platform works best for me as an individual. Me in particular, I work on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Substack as my core primary platforms I work across, right? For myself and my clients. But then you have to then think, okay, now I need to get into the mindset of understanding how to use said social media channels, right? If you're new to using these particular channels, then you have to then think, okay, now I need to think of particular content ideas that I can talk about on a sort of regular basis where people are starting to understand who I am and what I do and my expertise, right? And that's where that sort of brand authority pillars come in. What are the pillars? What are the 3 to 5 topic areas that you speak on quite often? And then you have to think, okay, now that I've got that tackled, I need to be able to look at the data, the analytics to see what is working, what's not, what sort of content is my audience looking from me, right? That alone, you'll have a lot of people that will just say, oh, that's too long or that's too hard, and they just won't do it. They just won't do it because that alone is a sort of blocker in their mind to say that they cannot do this particular said thing, so they're not going to do it, right? And then even when we get to the synergy part, you then have to think, okay, so now I've established a core platform that I'm utilizing. Let's say YouTube, for example, right? So now I need to think, okay, I need to commit time in the day to turn this said YouTube content that I've been developing and make it more feasible for the other sort of platforms that I'm using. So for argument's sake, now that I have my YouTube content, I need to make it a post for LinkedIn. And then now I need to tweak that and make it a sort of article or newsletter for my Substack. Then you think, oh, so now I need to do that, what, every week? Like, is that what I need to do? And then you realize that that's something you may not want to do. And then you're just like, okay, no, that's not for me. And then the amplification side of things, that now you realize, okay, now you have your long form content. Now I need to distribute said long form content across to the other sort of channels in order for other people to see it and react to it, and ultimately to have a wider branch of opportunity because more people are seeing my content. That's become another obstacle because now you're thinking, okay, now I need to potentially invest in tools that can allow that to be a thing that can happen. Otherwise, I will just not have the mental capacity to do so, right? And then we go into the PR section. Okay, now I need to be able to pitch myself to particular publications, or I need to be letting people aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and to present myself as a thought leader and a key person of influence. So now you need to learn an additional skill regarding what it means to put yourself out there through PR and how to pitch yourself to effectively align with the story that a journalist would want in order for them to cover you, or to cover you in their particular story, whether it's an interview or a thought leadership piece on their publication. And then marketing. Okay, now I need to learn the dimensions of marketing in order to then turn all of those people who have now started to come across my content into potential leads. How am I able to develop a funnel that can allow people to see what I do and they're interested, and now I can have a conversation with them, right? That I can sell my services to. And then revenue. After all of that, then you get to the point of, okay, now I'm in a position where I've been able to have my offer in place, and then now I need to drive revenue. And then now that I'm driving the revenue, now I need to ensure that I get the work done to the best of its ability So then I can repeat the cycle and repeat the circle of what it means to develop a level of brand authority alongside everything else. And when you put it like that, it sounds ridiculous. It sounds like there's a lot of spinning plates to it, because there is. There's a lot of spinning plates, right? And that is the point of when it comes down to building a revenue generating brand. It's a business. You have to treat your brand like a business. And just like a business, there's going to be various different concepts and things in place that you need to learn in order for you to get to that position where everything is like clockwork. You know, you have a predictable idea of how things are going to go based on these things happening already, right? There's many people who choose not to do said thing because it scares them, or they feel intimidated by it. And that used to be me. I always talk about it. It used to be me in the grand scheme of things. But if you are looking to build, that's what I'm saying. It all comes down to that level of self-development. I had to learn a lot, and I had to unlearn a lot to get me to the stage where I look at this as all a self-development and a self-discovery journey of what it means to build a brand, right? A 7-figure brand like that. And you effectively identifying that you know that you need a brand in order to continue to flourish no matter what you are doing in this lifetime, right? You have to say to yourself that this isn't a case about me finding what I want to be doing hard or me finding it intimidating. It is more so about you becoming that person where that thing is no longer intimidating, or that thing is no longer a particular burden, or it's no longer an issue, because you've got to that stage of learning and building and finding that confidence in yourself that has allowed you to build such a strong brand, right? And it's all about compounding. It doesn't happen overnight. For some people, it may happen overnight, but as quick as they got the opportunity, the quick it can like leave them, or it may just disappear. You have to focus on that compounding and building element of things as well. And even that idea of things, some of us are so consumed with the numbers, the vanity metrics, that we feel put off because we may have got maybe 10, 20, 30 views on a video, but it's better than not putting out content at all. Because at least then if you start putting out the content, then you have the data to start looking at to see what's working and what's not working. So then you're able to then build over time. The later you start when it comes down to building this brand, right, intentionally, then the longer it's going to be to then find out and figure out exactly what works from what doesn't. And ultimately, you need to play the long game. If you play the long game, then you are guaranteed for success. The only problem is the success doesn't tell you, it doesn't have a date in the calendar and says, okay, if you do it on this day, you'll be successful on that day. You just have to keep going. And that is the unfortunate part about it, because when you look at this idea of building a brand as a self-development journey, it's ongoing. You're always learning, you're always refining your skills, you're always becoming the better version of yourself. And by the time you reach that level of success that you've been effectively praying for, wishing for, whatever the case, and working hard for, when that opportunity arises and then you get to the place in your life where you're saying, I worked mad hard for this and now I've managed to get it, that alone, you would have learned so much in the journey that would have got you to become that person that will make sure that that level of success will never leave. In fact, it will tenfold, because you have reached a height of your success that you know that you can increase more, because you have shown a level of tenacity, a level of determination, and a level of consistency that has allowed you to reach the new levels of what it means to build a brand, right? So that's it for me, really and truly. I just wanted to kind of use this opportunity just to talk, no script, just straight from the heart, that sort of video. But ultimately, you have to look at it like that if you really want to be in it for the long haul. There's no sort of on and off when it comes down to this brand building side of things. It's you're fully involved or you're not involved at all. And when you get your head in the game of what it means to do that, you then realize that that's when you start to recruit people, you start to build a team around you that can make these things a reality. Because if you do not have a team around you that can make these things happen, then you are not in a position where you're able to focus on what you're able to do, right? Which is, of course, building your business to the heights that it needs to build. But then, unfortunately, it is very difficult in this particular era to build such a business without that level of credibility and visibility that you're able to work with. So just bear that one in mind. That's it for me. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you found this useful. If you have any particular questions, feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'll be sure to get back in touch with you. But in the meantime, look after yourself, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.